welcome back to our channel, Conversations with Ezra. I'm Allegra.
And I'm John. And today our video is going to be on family relationships are the sacred mirrors in our inner world.
What if our role in the family wasn't random? What if it was energetically chosen? And if so, what if shifting our vibration and could shift the whole family dynamic?
So we want to just take a moment here. We're going to just talk about, the roles in families have changed these days because a lot of families are a lot smaller. You and I come from a larger family,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
there was more roles in it. Like I'm the
yes,
youngest of six kids,
yeah,
right? So those roles they kind of changed as people my older brother, my older
yeah,
sister started moving out of
yeah.
the house. Those roles changed.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and you come from a family of four
Yeah,
kids.
I'm the middle kid, but I'm also the eldest daughter. So there is another shift in role dynamics where that is concerned.
Yeah,
Like there is just so much to the family dynamic that we never really think about, especially the way we react with other people, the way we see ourselves.
yeah.
And I can speak personally to that, the way we see ourselves, the way we interact with ourselves, not just seeing, but the things we allow ourselves to tolerate. Um, Based on the dynamic that or the role that we've been shoved into just because I guess or a birth order in the family if you want
When we showed up,
when
yeah.
we showed up, yeah, and what they kind of shoved on us because of their uncomfortability or lack of whatever. So yeah, the roles, and based on what we know energetically, we know coming in because Ezra has spoken to us about this a lot.
Oh yeah.
Is that before coming in, there were contracts made with each other as souls. We came in with a specific role as well. But we also came in knowing that we had the power to change it. But somewhere in between being on the other side and being born and evolving into little ones and then to older adult, like teenagers and whatever, we kind of forgot what our contract was,
Hmm.
and we just go about living life willy nilly, and then we end up at a point in adulthood, resenting a lot of ourselves, our family, our situations,
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
So
Well, see, I can speak to the roles in our families a little bit. See, with my brother, he was the scapegoat. He was the second oldest, and we had some interesting family dynamics. And
yeah,
when things went south, the crap usually landed on Bert. Whereas I was the youngest, I was the little one. I was spoiled rotten. Like even if my parents didn't have time for me, I had four sisters that doted over
which
me.
usually happens with
So
the youngest one,
yeah,
right? You guys can relate to
so
that, right?
I was
Yeah.
spoiled. So my role didn't change until a lot of my sisters moved out in the family. But when they were all there, I was just I was the comic relief in the family. I was the one that everybody just doted over and had fun with.
And
So
you see, his role was that's what he did, what he got away with, what he found himself doing.
mhm,
For me, it was completely different. I wasn't the comic relief. I was leave me alone kind of thing. That was
mhm,
me. That's how I dealt with things. I was more the one that would be in her room and just off to the side
mhm,
by herself, not having much to say, but definitely observing everything. I was the observer in the family, and I think because of that, being the observer in the family, what I realized happened a lot was I would see things that people didn't want me to see,
mhm.
and so when I voiced it, what started happening, and I even talking about it now, some of you probably may understand this, but when I would voice it, because there were things that others, especially the older ones, didn't want out in the open, they branded me as the one who talked too much, so I needed to stay quiet.
Mhm.
I was always told to shush. What I had to say wasn't valuable, and I carried that for a very long time in my adulthood. So
And still struggle with it from time to time.
from time to
Yeah.
time, it comes back
Yeah.
roaring to the forefront, and and it's like they're caught in the headlights. And then I remember, no, I've worked on this. This is not true. What I
Yeah.
have to say is valuable. Not just because you don't like it means that it isn't something that I cannot speak to. Doesn't mean that I'm trying to hurt anybody with it. It's just something that if I want to speak to it, I should be able to speak to it. And
Mhm.
what the other person takes from it, well, it really isn't something that I should take on. So, anyways, these are the things that
We're working.
you know that
We're living and growing as we
yeah,
speak. Yeah.
exactly. And we're hoping that there are some of you out there, or a lot of you, that can relate to what we're saying at this point. And hopefully, we're going to bring Ezra in, but hopefully, as you're listening to this, listened to us in the last few minutes, that you can relate and probably leave comments around what you think, because we'd like to hear if there's anybody kind of jiving with what's going on, what we're talking about. We
Absolutely.
think that there are some of you that can relate, but, and again, yeah, we'd like to hear from you.
All right.
So we're going to bring Ezra in, and we're going to hear what Ezra has to say about this as well. And hopefully it makes for a really eye-opening, interesting, thought-invoking conversation. See you in a bit. We are here.
Welcome back.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So today we're doing a YouTube video on family roles and the energetic agreements that we made when we first came here. We just want to talk about those roles, and so we don't just fall into these roles like the fixer, the quiet one, the black sheep. These are vibrational contracts formed through alignment or misalignment over time. Is that right?
Yes, that is right to some degree. And the reason why we say to some degree is that the names assigned to those roles are not necessarily what the roles actually are. Before coming in, you do have contracts and agreements that you make with each other, and there are lots of you that come together in groups in order for you and others to either enhance your experience here or to assist in the evolution of your world in general. So before coming in, there are contracts, there are agreements where some of you may interact with each other for a time. Some of you may interact with each other for a very long time, and some of you may interact with each other for very brief periods of time. Nothing, no encounters, no actions, no decisions are random. But even though you do have those contracts coming in, there is also the knowing from you that you have the power to change the course, the trajectory of decisions and actions based on what is put forth to you at any moment in time. Another asking.
So we can change our role as time goes on.
Precisely, for as your contract with another comes to an end, you are still here living. So, a lot of times you interact with each other under certain circumstances. And as those circumstances resolve itself, whether it is deemed negative or positive, there is not the moving forth with the understanding that your purpose has now been met. Sometimes some of you will hang on to the old role, the old paradigms, and deem it as that is the way it is. But if you understand that your role have been met, your agreement has been met to the fullest, you've honored your contract, and you move positively in the other direction, then you shift your interaction, your role, your outlook on who you are going forward. Hence, the shift in roles can be made at any given point. Another asking.
So the family dynamic it's a living frequency then? It's ever
It is
changing?
ever changing. It is
Okay.
always, there's always that push and pull with those who are involved in that group dynamic. So, for example, some of you may label one to be, as you said earlier, the black sheep, meaning that they are the ones that would be called, for a better word, the troublemaker in that group, in that family dynamic. But we would like to say that that particular one is the one that is there to allow you to pull your very best self forward in dealing with situations. But because you are uncomfortable with their unwavering in not allowing you to pull them into your nonsense, if you will, then you label them as the black sheep. But they knew coming in that they would be the one that will stand steadfast in a particular belief, in a particular decision, and in standing steadfast in that decision or belief, you will then have to shift into that nature of who you really are so that you can live your life to the fullest. But instead of remembering that aspect of your contract, you may decide to stand steadfast and stubbornly in the negative observation of the other, as opposed to looking within and saying to yourself, okay, so this other is here to serve a purpose for me. What is that purpose? Understood?
Understood. So every family has a core vibrational pattern that
Yes.
influences how each person shows up. So is that vibration set up by the parents, so to speak, and then we move into our roles?
Not necessarily by the parent. That core dynamic can be set up by others coming into the familial circle. And we'll give an example. You have in the family dynamic, you have your grandparents, you've got your parents, you've got the children. Then as the children gets older, you've got the in-laws and you've got your other siblings and so on and so on. Let's say, for example, there has been a family dynamic set by the grandparents. And as that family dynamic has been set by the grandparents, you now have the parents that have adopted some of the ways from the grandparents, but also understand that there are different ways to do things. So now there is a different core dynamic to the family of the younger ones coming in to that. And usually, because there is a differing of opinion between the grandparents and the parents in terms of the shifting of the energies, that's where you usually find that there is conflict. But if you would step aside and look at that shifting of the parents' perspective from the grandparents, you would understand that the parents are the one that is now coming in to the dynamic with a purpose, with a contract to allow the grandparents to shift their perspective to move forward in a different way, with a different energy, with a different frequency that would serve them in a more positive way along their journey. But a lot of times you would find the ones you call the grandparents are very resistant, or they hold on to ideas and traditions and history a lot more. Another asking.
Yeah. So we were talking about that we can change our vibrations, so to speak, and so we're not stuck in that role. So we can consciously choose a different vibration or a different frequency.
Yes, and often you do choose a different vibration or different frequency, but because the ones around you have such stronger opinions or vibrational output around certain topics, you find yourself falling back into their thinking, into their way of doing things. There is, from our perspective, that concept of if you understood your true power, you can have a group of 10 or 20 people with the same frequency But if you are true to yours and it is a positive, pure, energetic alignment, then you and your frequency can be stronger than all 10. Understood?
Understood. So uh, we can change how we interact with that frequency. We can actually change the family dynamic if we're in alignment with source.
Precisely. And if you are in alignment with your desire, so if your desire is to see the family dynamic change in such a way that you are seeing positive outcome for each and every one or for as many as possible, and you hold true to that dynamic, that desire, with your frequency matching up to that pureness of that energy, the love within that resolution that you can see, then changes and shifts happen without you even having to do anything. A lot of times, you humans believe that the more words you can express and the more actions that you put out, it will give you the changes that you are looking for. But a lot of time, the thing that brings about the change is the strongest frequency, the more powerful, quiet frequency within yourself. Seeing the change, understanding the change, looking at it from a positive perspective, and just sitting in it, you will see the others around you tweak just a little until it becomes the next new thing. Another asking.
So it's energy first and behavior second.
Precisely. Tweak your energy, tweak your perspective, tweak the way you see others. It doesn't matter what they are sending back to you in actions and words, but if you choose to see it differently, just for a little while, you will have great rewards in the way things turn in your favor. Another asking?
So we're not here to actually fix our families then.
No. You are here to be a part of their journey. You are here to also use them as a way of mapping out what you would like to have for yourself. For as you sit in the contrast of the family dynamic, observing things that you would not like to have in your reality, you use that contrast as a stepping stone to moving your attention to what you would actually like to experience. And as you move your focus to what you would actually like to experience and stay steadfast in that focus, that dynamic that is on this side usually changes to for you in terms of the reality that you will experience. It doesn't mean that everyone else in the dynamic will experience the same changes, but you will experience it. Another asking.
So it's important to just be ourselves, be true to ourselves, so to
Yes.
speak. Yeah, no matter what's going on out there.
Precisely.
Yeah. So
Another asking.
yeah, so it's alignment is more important than getting the approval in that dynamic. Correct?
Precisely. Yes.
Yeah. I spent a lot of my life trying to gain the approval of my parents, of others in my life.
So has Allegra. She has spent a lot of time trying to have others understand that what she says and what she does has value or even more value sometimes than what they deem to be valuable.
Hmm.
So as she continued on and through her younger years and into adulthood, she learned to keep opinions to herself. Another asking.
No, you know what? I think we've covered enough about the family roles for today. It was an exciting time to spend with you, Ezra, and I really appreciate your time.
We appreciate the opportunity and we look forward to our next interaction. Until then, much love and peace. Good day.
Good day.
Hi.
She's back.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So this was an interesting conversation. Again, we talk about family roles, and like when I was working with my three kids, raising them before you and I got together.
Right.
They didn't have the same roles. I didn't put them in the same boxes. They didn't put themselves in the same boxes as we did as kids. We both grew up in a lot more dysfunctional situations
Yeah, we did.
than they did.
We did, yeah.
Even though there was dysfunction, and my alcoholism sure ran rampant in our relationship, my ex-wife and I. Uh, it was still not the same as it was in the alcoholic home that I grew up in.
That's right,
It
and
was,
it's the same here for me. We had similar situations growing up, and yes, and as what I understood later on in life is that when you are growing up in a family dynamic such as that, as
Mhm.
John said, the providers have to assign roles. It's the only way they could compartmentalize what's happening
Mhm.
and seem as if it's normal to them
Yeah.
or seem to be portraying a normal life. And the truth of the matter is, it is not. So, but
What I laugh about is that both my parents have moved on.
yeah,
They're no longer on this plane with us.
right.
And still from time to time, it's like we had that yesterday.
As
where
if they're sitting in the room with you,
as
right?
if-
Well,
as
they
if-
are sitting in the room, but you're thinking.
but it was like I reacted in the exact same way.
Oh yeah, yeah,
as
that's
if
right. He did. He
a couple
did.
days ago, exactly the same way as my dad did, and it was like they're still here. And they're both passed on, and they've still got that impact on
Yeah.
us. It's just amazing how much of that we carry with
Yeah,
us.
it was so true. And I said to him, where did that come from? And he said, well, and he gave me the whole scenario of, when they went wherever and this happened and the way his dad, and he reacted exactly the same way.
Exactly
And
the same.
as he's telling me what
Boggles my
happened, I
mind.
said, so that wasn't even your thing. He said, well, no. I said, no, but the one before you made sure that you understood that that's the way you react, even though it didn't serve you or him at all, right? And he goes, yeah. So it's interesting how even when they're not there, it's like they're in our back pockets. They
Yeah.
just, you just bring up the old things that they taught us without even thinking
Yeah.
whether or not it's serving you, whether or not it's going to get you where you want to be.
Mhm.
And then some of us justify the action by saying, well, that's the way it's always been done, or quietly in your mind think, well, that's the way they did it, that's the way I have to do it, not even thinking that it's not. You can change the story.
It's just a story.
Yeah, you can change the
Just
story.
a story.
You can
Wow.
send your life into whatever direction you want, and sometimes we kind of decide that we're still going to send it in the negative spin
Yep.
because that's the way others did it before us. So, yeah, I don't know, but
So, like I said, I keep saying this. We're a work in progress. This is an exciting time for us. We get to learn an awful lot about ourselves, and
Yeah.
hopefully, we're passing some of this on, and people are enjoying what they're hearing from Ezra. Ezra is just infinite intelligence, giving
Yes.
us our guidance all the time. It's
all the
actually
time,
amazing.
and not to sound whatever, but just so you guys know, not just because we have access to Ezra means that we do everything
No.
in a way that's in alignment. We have our moments too when we're like, what do they know? We'll just do it this way, and that's okay too, I guess. We just kind of we figure it out afterwards that maybe we should have not, but it's interesting. But again, let us know what you think around this conversation. I believe that this is a conversation that we'll bring up again,
Mhm.
maybe with more specific topics based on the comments we get back from you guys.
Mhm.
We can address more specific things with more details with Ezra.
Mhm.
They love when you guys get juicy in it, like just bring up and they can just bring things up and help you guys with it. So I think this is going to be a conversation that we'll bring back around in our videos. Yeah. So please let us know, and thank you guys so much for
Yeah,
watching.
thanks for watching us. Yeah,
And
we really appreciate it.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully you guys got some laughs. Hopefully you guys got some revelations.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can hear some comments. But yeah, love interacting with you guys. So stay tuned for our next video. Subscribe, like. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.